Welcome to Golden Software's video training for Strater 4. Strater 4 is a fully customizable well log, borehole, and cross-section plotting software program with innumerable ways to graphically display your data. In this video, I will attempt to cover some of the basic features of Strater 4. Click the File Open command, select the file Multiple Boreholes from the Strater Samples folder, click Open, and the file opens in the View window. There are four types of windows in Strater: the borehole view, the map view, the cross-section view, and the data tables. The tabs at the top are color-coded based on which type of window it is. The borehole view tab is blue. Borehole views show all of the graphical elements of your log. This is where you design and create your log layout. It is divided into three panels: the header pane at the top, the log pane in the middle, and the footer pane at the bottom. The header and footer panes are where you store all the information about the log. They can contain drawing objects such as text, lines, polygons, imported objects, etc. The log pane contains the actual logs. You can also include drawing objects in the log pane if you wish. The Map View tab is red. Map views show the maps in plain view. You can display a well map such as this one, where each borehole is displayed as a symbol. You can also create base maps from many other file types, such as DXF files, SHP files, or GeoTIFF files. If you create a well map, you can connect specific wells with a line and use it to generate a cross-section. The Cross-Section View tab is green. Cross-section views show cross-sections based on interval data, such as lithology data, like this example, or depth data, such as geophysical data. The wells are automatically connected with layers when using interval data. You can reshape the layers or delete them and draw your own layers. The cross-sections are drawn in the center cross-section pane. You can also create informative well headers, scale bars, legends, or other items in the header pane or footer pane. All of the logs, maps, and cross-sections are based on the data imported into the data tables. The data table tabs are black. You can view the various tables by clicking on the tabs at the top of the window. As you can see, you can import data for multiple boreholes into one data table. In this example, there is data for boreholes called DH213, DH218, and DH214 imported into the data tables. The three different view types in Strater, borehole, map, and cross-section, utilize three managers that are open on the left side of the Strater window by default: the View Manager, the Object Manager, and the Property Manager. All of the managers can be opened and closed by clicking View Managers. The check mark next to the manager name indicates if it is currently open. You can toggle the managers on and off by clicking the name of the manager. In Strater, you can have multiple borehole, cross-section, or map views in one project. This allows you to create a borehole view for different boreholes, have different log layouts for the same data, create different maps, or create cross-sections with different boreholes, and save it all in one project. The View Manager displays the names of the various borehole, map, or cross-section views. In this case, there is only one of each view type. You can use the View Manager to open views that are not currently open and create new views. For example, to create a new borehole view, simply right-click in the View Manager and go to New Borehole View. This will create a new borehole view called Borehole 2. You can see the name in the View Manager. You can toggle between the different borehole views by clicking on the tabs at the top or by clicking on their names in the View Manager. You can close a view by clicking the X in the upper right corner or by unchecking the checkbox next to the borehole view name in the View Manager. This closes the Borehole View tab, but you can still access it through the View Manager. To reopen the borehole view, just double-click on its name in the View Manager. If you want to delete a borehole view, all you have to do is right-click over its name and click Delete. When you select a view, all of the objects in that view are listed in the Object Manager. For borehole and cross-section views, objects are grouped together according to which pane they are located in. So all of the objects in the log pane are listed under log pane objects, all of the objects in the header pane are listed under header pane objects, and all of the objects in the footer pane are listed under footer pane objects. To select an object, you can click on the object in the borehole view, or you can click on the object in the Object Manager. After an object is selected, the properties for that object are shown in the Property Manager. Whenever you change one of the properties in the Property Manager, it has an immediate effect on the graphic in the borehole view. For example, I can select this complex text log and the Property Manager updates to show the properties for that log. Click the Label tab and I can change the text color from black to blue, and I'll see the text color of the log update immediately. This is also where I control what data table is used for the log and what data column within the data table is used. For example, this log uses data from the data table called lithology and the data column called description. I can change the data table to any table listed in the drop-down menu, and I can change the data column to any column listed in the drop-down menu. You can change the generic settings of the view in the View properties. Each of the 3 view types will have a different set of properties. I'll go over the properties for the borehole view, but first I will open a different sample file. Click File, Open, and open the sample file Daeviated Borehole. There are many different ways to access the view properties. For example, you can click View, View Properties. Click on the view name in the View Manager, click the View Properties button, or click in the white space outside of the page outlines. The view properties are displayed in the Property Manager. You can change the borehole name by typing in a new name. You can change the depth method from the measured depth to the true vertical depth. This will display the data of the true vertical depth, as long as you have an azimuth and an inclination or depth data for the boreholes. You can hang the log on different datums by changing the reference datum. You can choose to hang them on the mean seam level, which displays the logs based on their elevation value, or you can set this to a specific marker bed, which will set the top of the marker bed to a depth of 0 across the logs. If there is data for more than one borehole imported into the data tables, you can change which borehole is being plotted by selecting the borehole name from the ID Filler drop-down menu. This will change all logs in the view to use the hole ID. Currently, there are logs set to all 3 holes. If I change the hole ID filter to BH1, then all logs will change to BH1. If I change it again to BH2, then all logs are updated with the new hole data. This is most useful when plotting data for only one hole at a time in the view. You can change the depth settings of the log to be automatically calculated or to be gathered from the collars table or user-defined. If the depth settings is user-defined, you can set the starting borehole depth and the ending borehole depth. When the depth settings is set to automatic, Strater automatically scales the logs so that they fit on one piece of paper. You can uncheck Auto Recalculate Scale and change the scaling depth per inch value if you want another scale. For example, I'll change the scaling depth per inch to be 250, and you can see that the scale of the logs change. I can also set a standard scale. For example, if I want the logs to be scaled at 1 inch for every 2,000 inches, I would type in 2,000 here and the log scale will update. Set the depth units for your data. This is the units of your data imported into the data table. You can set the log display mode to be full view or page view. Page view shows you the log as it is broken down into pages, with the page sizes defined under File, Page Setup. Full view shows you the entire log without any page breaks. You can also define the log pane, header pane, and footer pane line properties, and define a null value for the project. This concludes the brief introduction to Strater 4. If you have any additional questions, please contact Golden Software.